Our next speaker, CEO of a brand called Soylent. Soylent came to the market the same way many Silicon Valley startups do, as a disruptor. At its launch in 2013, the brand earned headlines and notoriety, same as those VC-funded companies that want to mine the moon for minerals or upload your consciousness to a hard drive do. It wanted to disrupt one of our most instinctive daily rituals, eating. While foodies may have been appalled, the founding team nevertheless found a dedicated consumer base online made up of disruption-friendly coalition of coders, biohackers, and students who loved the idea of a full nutrition beverage they could drink at their desk as they work. To make it even more convenient, Soylent was sold only via e-commerce, designing its own subscription service so its customers could keep the supply coming and stock their fridges top to bottom. But last year, Soylent finished its online beta and made the leap to retail. They raised $50 million, and the brand is now in such offline, real-world counts such as 7-Eleven, CVS, Walmart, and numerous college campuses where it is facing the mainstream and seeking to bring in new consumers, even some who aren't necessarily looking to replace their entire diets with liquid. So how do you make that transition from niche online brand to an omnichannel product with mass appeal? Bryan Crowley, who became the CEO in December, is going to take us through that journey. As with any small brand making the pivot to the big leagues, there are challenges and surprising synergies. So please welcome to the stage Bryan Crowley.
So let me start real quick and thank BevNet for having me up here. And I want to start before the great intro, how many people really knew Soylent? Not just the name, but knew Soylent. Okay, good. Not that many. So we got a lot of new information. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you a little bit about our mission, right? I'm going to tell you a little bit more. Brad shared some. I'm going to share a little bit more about our story. This whole transition and selling in multi-channel, and then this kind of massive thing that's omnichannel that we're all reading about and hearing about and trying to get our hands around. And we at Soylent have a unique position here because we're a click before brick brand, right? And that gives us a unique advantage relative to data and relative to how we're thinking about moving into the retail space. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. But let me first start with some facts. So let me get a lay of the land. How many people are actively seeking out non-GMO products in the room? Okay, less than I would have thought. How many people are actively seeking out organic products? Okay, quite a few more. All right, so this is going to be very different from the presentations probably over the last 7 or 8 years here at BevNet. So let's start with some of the facts. So most of you have probably seen this stat at one point or another. 2050, 9.7 billion people. The book to the right is actually where the name Soylent came from. No, not the movie Soylent Green. And no, there's no people in it. Harry Harrison wrote a book about overpopulation. That's where the name Soylent came from. Soylent was a luxury in the future because obviously there was not food. There was no animal protein. So we need to increase food production by 70%. Almost 40% of the Earth's land is already used for agriculture. Livestock is the single largest contributor of greenhouse gases. And you can see the chart, significantly more energy to produce. We also have a malnutrition and hunger issue in the richest country in the world. 41 million Americans struggle with hunger. 1 in 8 suffer from food insecurity, which includes malnutrition. So how do we fix this, right? How do we tackle these big issues with food? But how do we do it for everyone? That's what I would argue is a bit of the different stance that we've taken at Soylent and what we're trying to tackle. And I'm going to share some big goals that we have and things that we're trying to do. And then I'm going to bring it down to, okay, what are we actually doing today? So do we fix food with more non-GMO options, right? Can we actually do that? So we take a very hard stance on non-GMO. In fact, we're pro-GMO, right? We feel like we're pro-science. We're using science and technology. We think we need science as we go forward. So we've blogged about it. We put billboards up to continue the conversation. And I would encourage you, there's a lot of misinformation out there. I learned a lot as I've been with Soylent now for a year. And as all the research that I did, I can tell you, it really opened my eyes. A friend of mine, Scott Hamilton Kennedy, he's an Academy Award nominee, Food Evolution. If you have Amazon, how many Amazon Prime people? You get it for free. So you can actually watch this and just keep an open mind. See what you think after you watch this. But it's an evolving debate. Organic, what about organic? So this is where we are now, right? There's a lot of data out there and facts, but about 25% less food per acre. Well, that's not going to help us. So organic, there's a lot of competing science about the nutrient value and all of that, but let's take that out and just say, hey, we think organic's good for the individual, but it's still yet to be sustainable at scale. So this isn't new, right? There's a lot of brands in the natural and organic space and others that are tackling this. We need more sustainable, nutritious, and I think one of the things we're really working hard to be is affordable plant-based food options, right? So the affordability is really important to our mission. But let's talk a little bit about the story. Let's go ahead and play the video so you learn a bit more and see it live.
Why not just eat food? Do you view this as meal replacement or is this meal supplement?
Food is also pleasurable, like melted cheese, my friend.
Functional food.
We're trying to make food better. We wanted to see what a balanced diet entails and then meet those requirements as elementally as possible.
This is a full meal. It's going to give you everything your body needs. This food is very convenient, nutritious, and affordable. It fits the criteria that people desire. All we have to do is produce food more efficiently and distribute it wider, and we do that through technology, and that's what we're working on.
So what's next? You just can keep growing the company, be a zillionaire, and then help the UN.
Absolutely.
Feed the world.
We can help feed the world? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that was Rob Reinhart, our founder. So, and this is where Brad talked a little bit about it, and we talked about this is kind of the transition we'll talk a bit about. So obviously the brand started all about living off of it. Rob lived off it for 30 days. This is his original blog. He blogged about it. It went viral. That led to a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign, $3 million in pre-orders, which to date is still the most successful crowdfunding food and beverage campaign ever. Right? The press got it, really started writing about it, really fueling the flames. And so we were powder for a while, and then we actually launched the drink. So we launched it first in just the original, but this was kind of the really where the company really started taking off. Is once we launched our first flavor, which was called Coffeeist, that's where it really kind of took off and started going, whoa, we really have something here. We can actually move this far beyond just a relatively few people that want to go live off of it. How do we service it in a new way and think about these groups? So here's Soylent today. So we've got our base drinks, which now we have 3 flavors. So this is the strawberry, which launches here in a couple of weeks, that are non-caffeinated. We have our cafe varieties. And then we've got our powder business, which we launched a new cacao flavor last year. So that's the portfolio now. If you don't know much about Soylent, it's pretty simple, and simplicity is kind of part of the brand mantra. So 20 grams of plant-based protein. We use a isomulcellose, it's called, which is a slow-burning carb derived from beets, which makes the product low GI. So this product is a low GI, it won't spike your blood sugar. Healthy fats, fiber, and 20% of all your daily vitamins and minerals. So that's what the product is, and that's in the powder and the drink. So this is the question I get all the time, right? Do we want to replace food? No. Right? Food waste, right? We want to minimize food waste. We want to combat food insecurity. This is a year old. I think we're up to 2.5 million meals that we're working with the World Food Program globally. And now locally, as we launch retail, we partner with Big Geyser in our launch here, and we're doing a giveaway with local food banks. So for every one a consumer purchases, we're going to give one away to the local food banks. We want to end malnutrition. So those are all big ones, but what if we bring it back to this bottle and what we're trying to do with the consumer? This is really about, we've coined this term food voids. And for all of you, some of you I actually know really well, we're all in this group called busy professionals. So you all have about, based on our research, about 8 to 15 times a week you suffer from a food void. And that's when you make an unhealthy or unsustainable or an expensive food choice because you don't have access to something better. I'm not talking about meals when you go out with friends and family. Those are choices. These are ones you really don't want to make. And there's a lot. So that means the business, and that gets us excited because we think it can be big. So again, everyone is in this space, right? Everyone's looking for these convenient, healthier options. But we can't target everyone, right? So we focus on these 4 key cohort groups. So college students, Brad talked about this, techies, busy urban professionals, so you all, and gamers. And this really allows us to, obviously, in terms of how we buy our media, how we think about our data, how we go after these people, and then it also informs the next topic, which is how do we actually think about taking this brand to retail, and which channels should you focus on? So a few more stats. You'll see we're big into data. So 75% of millennials skip breakfast at least once a week. 50% of millennials replace meals with a snack 4 times a week. 62% of professionals eat lunch at their desks. And this one really surprised me. 59% of college students are not getting proper nutrition. Right? So there's a lot of opportunity here, no doubt. So when you think about food voids, you think about this multi-channel. So why, besides wanting to sell more and get, well, we have to think about how do we get beyond, how do we make this product more available? And as you know, we started e-com subscription model, which was quite unique back then, direct to consumer. Then we launched on Amazon. You'll see some of the stats here, but I always like to share the first one, which in January, we were actually the number 1 and 2 grocery item on all of Amazon. So Amazon's been a phenomenal partner for us in helping us get this product and brand out there. But we need more access, right? And why? Why take on? That's the other question I always get. Why are you taking on all of this new complexity and cost of retail? Like, why would you do that? Why don't you just be great at e-com? Well, food voids aren't always planned, right? If our mission is to make these things obsolete, then we got to be available because you don't always plan them. So that's the retail. Here's where we've been on e-com, Soylent.com and Amazon being the vast majority of our business. In the room, we have our partners at 7-Eleven, which is where we launched. Brad mentioned that. We've had huge success. We've expanded beyond our original 18-store test in Southern California, and we continue to have great success. Big Geyser, which Jerry should be running around here, maybe not today, but I think he's a judge, so I did see him. He was a judge. So Jerry and Lewis at Big Geyser have been a key partner, and New York is actually our number 1 e-com market, right? Urban, busy professionals. So, and we've had huge success in, how many outlets? 4,000? 4,000 outlets now. 3,000, going to be 4,000 in the next couple of months at here in New York Metro and Long Island. And then a lot of you saw the Walmart news, which Walmart's been a great partner, big success. We're doubling at least what we all thought we would get in velocities, we're already getting in Walmart. So we're proving, we got a lot more to prove. We got a long way to go, but we're actually proving that this thing can work. So how do we think about it? We have 4 key channels, and we call these use case channels. So grab-and-go grocery, convenience and gas, college and university, and office. So that's where we're focusing our retail expansion. We want those things, we want to do them well, and you don't need to really go into why these make sense for a product like this. So now let's take it to omnichannel. So what is this omnichannel thing? I just picked out a definition that I like. There's a bunch of them out there. There's a lot of argument, are you really omnichannel or not? But basically, omnichannel does two things. It puts the consumer at the center, and it includes your retail channels with your marketing channels. So it's one omni experience that you're actually doing. It's all about getting this enriching customer experience across many channels, and then the message evolves from channel to channel. It might not be the same thing, but they're all building on each other. And then you can be very, very hyper-targeted, right? You can really go deep, and that's what the e-com side really helps us with, is really understanding our customer better than anyone else, and really understanding how to go get to them and target them. So I thought I would end, because when we were talking to Brad and BevNet about, hey, what would be unique, potentially helpful for you all, I thought maybe we'd do a case study, right? So let's look at college and university. So how do we do and how do we think about reaching college students in an omni-channel way? So it's about every touch point. And this is where content comes in. This is like the new where everyone's like content. In the omni-channel world, content is king. You need a lot of content. You have to set up and structure the organization so that you can deliver compelling content. And you know what else? Content doesn't last that long. So you have to be constantly changing up the content that you're using, because the expectations, especially when you're targeting millennial consumers, is that you're going to constantly keep it fresh. So here's some of the campuses. I think we're on 28, where we're really focusing from a 360 perspective. But I'd start with, we're already seeing, I'll show you some of the work that we've done, but we're seeing a 22% increase in actually getting people to the site and converting, right? And getting them to convert. And college students were really difficult to reach outside on our e-com channel, just because it's still $40. If you want to try Soylent, up until we launched retail, you had to pay $40 and buy a case. That's a high cost of entry. So here's some of the things we do. We have a student ambassador program. We put ads on their backpacks. We actually can track where they go so that we can geo-target around those and make sure they're going around the stores. Right? It gets a little creepy, but these are, we partnered with this company, and we've had huge success in terms of making sure that we're getting into places and supporting where students are. GoPuff, if you've heard of GoPuff, so it's a convenience store delivery. We partnered with GoPuff to get them product. You got to do some wacky stuff. This is a key we bought on MIT. This actually will deliver a Soylent to your dorm. I have a video, but we don't have time to show it. But go online and you just do Soylent KiwiBot, and you can watch the video. And then when they go in the campus stores, so this says, you probably can't see it, says the most complete meal in the store. Friendly reminder: jerky is not a meal. Sorry for the Sebastian and Alberto. We had jerky up there. And then we did a pedicab program where we actually, when they were late, we gave them breakfast and a ride, right? When they were late to class. I think this is actually the most important one, is that we're getting this idea of guerrilla marketing on campus. We're supporting the math clubs. We're supporting the gaming clubs. We're getting in there in the community and supporting not just the big things, but also those hyper-targeted extracurricular. And then digital ads. You got to have digital ads. We have plenty of digital ads. We're trying to move to mostly video. Video is king. That's what everyone's saying. So we'll show you a couple here.
Yes, yes.
So those are, again, quick, fast, gives you a use case, have some fun, educate a little bit. This functional space a lot of times is about education as well, but you can't always do a 2-minute video and tell them all the different things that are in the product. And then social, right? So both our social, but then the brand ambassadors that we hire also post on social, so you get the social aspect. And then I thought I'd end with this aspect of how do you get the community involved? Like, this is the classic kind of millennial marketing. Like, we got to get the community involved. And so here's a crazy way. So here's a poster that was posted on the MIT campus, and it was about a violent duck that went crazy and got enraged when it had Soylent. So don't feed this duck Soylent. You could go online and you could actually pin where you saw the duck. And we had so many people were pinning this stuff that businesses started to pin because the traffic was flowing to the sites. For those of you who know how that works, they started pinning against it. So here's a creepy one. So how about a free Soylent sculpture? This is someone who posted, they did a hardened Soylent sculpture of his girlfriend. You could go online and find out about this sculpture that he was selling and why he made it. So BuzzFeed caught wind of this and did an investigation. Hey, what's this all about? Like they called us, of course, we didn't answer. They wrote an article about it still, like, what's the deal? What happened here? So the team came up with this great response. I don't know if you can see it, but it basically says, we actually did a poster and posted it on a poll, took a picture of it, and that was our response. So it says, CEO has no comment. So CEO doesn't comment on posters, but he will comment on Soylent. So this is a good example of kind of getting the community involved and doing it in unique ways that I think the team, and kudos to the marketing group at Soylent, that we have a phenomenal team that really tries to think outside of the box. And that's how you get engagement. That's how you get there. And then it goes away, right? Now we have to come up with the next thing. So that's Soylent in the real world. I didn't comment on that, but I think we're going to do Q&A, so I'm happy to comment on Brad's questions and any of your questions. Thanks, guys.
So I think we saw at the end there a great example of what Gary was talking about at the top of the day, where creating a authentic relationship with a brand and consumer and understanding them. I think you're really speaking the language of that techie, online, post-ironic style of humor.
Right.
But one thing that I have a question about is the brand aesthetic is minimalist. The name is a science fiction in-joke, and so as you're facing the busy urban worker, as you're facing the regular students, how do you make the connection to the people who don't get the reference, who maybe aren't in on the style of humor
right.
or eccentricity?
Yeah, I think it's a balance. It's a balance, really. So you can see even in some of the digital ads, right, they're very simple, right? So we do have content which is very straightforward and shares kind of very simply what the product is and what it can do for you. And then we balance that with, obviously, the stuff that's a little bit far for our core. So I think it really comes down to this idea of content and balance. Like, you have to have the edge. If you lose the edge, we did a bunch of brand work, and for those of you that are familiar with brand architecture and archetypes, we're basically a rebel brand with a cause, as we call it. So I think you got to keep your edge. You got to push the envelope, and you can't be afraid to have a really strong voice.
And one thing with the e-commerce build is that Soylent, one of the things that positioned it well was it was such a unique, disruptive product. And do you see that style working in other categories? Do you see that someone who's running a different kind of brand, maybe a coffee or a kombucha, can take some notes from the Soylent playbook if the product isn't as unique or strange?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is trying to dip their toes in the e-com space. So even if you were brick before click, obviously more and more people are going online. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, from how you actually interact with Amazon. That's where I get a ton of questions, like, hey, how are you making it work on Amazon? But in terms of, to me, it all comes down to the data. The value is making sure that you set up, I think that's what we've done relatively well, is set up the infrastructure so you can take advantage of the data of e-com, and then make sure you have a platform of which to sell. Like, we sell bulk online. We don't sell singles except for in promotional ways in there, because obviously it's expensive to get a case of this to the consumer. So you can't really do so. So now retail allows them to try, allows them to fill when they need it, and then e-com will allow us to continue to do bulk, and we'll continue to push the right retail channels at the right time.
All right. And I'd love to talk more, but unfortunately we are out of time. So Bryan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to welcome Jeff back to the stage.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.